on Apple Pie, you talk about if a man won't treat you right, what makes you think he'll cheat you right? So that's one of my favorite lines on the album. So how and why, given our dozens, maybe hundreds of conversations over the decades now, what made you want to include that in that song in particular?
Well, I mean, I didn't invent it. That's a Khalid Abdul Muhammad quote.
Yeah.
Uh, and I know his son too. It was a really awful dude. I mean, awful, awesome dude. But that was Khalid was debating. I think like a, I think a Jewish scholar and a Christian scholar about the Bible, whatever. Anyway, but I think that's the first time I heard the quote. But it's always made. It's just such a sensible thing. Like if somebody would not treat you right, then they wouldn't teach you right. It's just so logical, and it just comes off the tongue, and so it just still with me a lot just to repeat it and give it, on a platform where hopefully people can can hear it differently in music. With young RJ produced it from Slum Village, so I just felt like that would be a great platform to make that point because yeah, again the metaphor is apple pie. It says as American as apple pie, but what else is very American as apple pie? Abuse, theft,
Hmm.
lying. You know what I'm saying? Like let's not delude ourselves. So I just felt like it was appropriate.
Ingrained in the culture for sure.
Mm.
So that being said, the catalyst kickoff song for all of this was Reparations, and ALaZ on there. You're performing musically and rapping. So what was important for you about being able to showcase multiple talents on one song?
Man, it was all about collaboration, man. Once again, being from Macon, this soil is a very sacred soil when it comes to just music, period. Little Richard being from one of our Black Wall Street neighborhoods, Pleasant Hill. Um, Otis Redding being born in Dawson, Georgia, but literally growing up in Macon from a very young age and making his base in Macon and affecting soul music, whether it be the Stax legacy or however you want to slice it, but him coming back to making and making his base, even though he was a world-class artist, his wife Zelma and his family have now created a foundation and a center where that legacy continues to educate the same way that he educated people out on the ranch in Jones County. Um, James Brown, you know what I'm saying, came through here. And even though he was born in Toccoa, Georgia, he got the Augusta, Georgia history and the South Carolina history. When he was coming up, the same way that people might run to Atlanta or they run to New York or run to LA, people were running to Macon because there was infrastructure here in terms of radio stations and people that had shown success in music. So he actually did a demo for Please 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 at WIBB, which later became radio station 97.9 WIBB. That's the hip hop station here. And the collaborative aspect, because I'm in the midst of this culture, the collaborative aspect of gospel music. You know what I'm saying? Number one, you collaborating with the creator. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing that we come up with is of our own. We have to collaborate with the creator, getting that word, getting the knowledge, and being able to express that with these different instruments, whether it be an organ, a piano, a bass, drums, whatever it looks like. And also you're working with other people. Like a lot of the greatest musicians come out of church because number one, the reason why they're playing is a lot deeper than what everybody else is doing for commercial use. But also too, because the practice is crazy. Like you gotta be a different type of musician to be able to go and switch keys on a dime and be able to, what I'm saying, really just flow, what I'm saying, with whatever's going on. So the musicians are always working together with the vocalist, with the minister, with all of these different things that are happening. So the collaboration for me when Arm Real sent them drums through, like he sent a pack of drums. And anybody that, knows about any producers, like when them drums come through, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care who it is. Night Wonder sent some drums, you know what I mean? Premier sent the drums, like Real sent them drums through, and it was like, okay, it's hip hop, you know what I'm saying? So me being from the South, you know what I'm saying? I threw an 808 in there, you know what I'm saying, to celebrate that part of the culture. And wanted to make sure that the choir, you know what I'm saying, that choir sample was in there because we come from the church. And I think the first time I met Robin, I didn't even know who she was at the time, but I was living in Chicago, working with Hip Hop Detox, a public health nonprofit that was started by Brother Enoch and Sister Keisha Muhammad, and it replaces self-destructive lifestyles with the elements of hip hop. And while working there, I was invited to play djembe at a First Repair event. I didn't know anything about First Repair. I didn't know anything about the work for reparations, but Dr. Obari Cartman, one of my good brothers through Allende Cartman that went to Morehouse with me, invited me to come play djembe. In that church was where I first connected with Robin's work. And the black church, regardless of the tampering that had happened with the scripture, one thing that could not be removed from us as a people is our DNA and our direct link to God. So even in the ways that we would worship and different things, there might have been some different translations and things like that, but our sincerity always came through. So the organizing center for many of our communities was the black church and continues to be with First Repair. So whether it's the black church, whether it's the mosque, whether it's just somebody sitting down meditating and breathing that doesn't have a quote unquote, religious background, but knows that they need to be centralized and be connected to something bigger, that choir is to symbolize the spirituality of, our movement and the center of that spirituality. And then the trumpet, with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan telling us that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, with if you ever seen a final call, that trumpet on that newspaper is coming out of the corner as a symbol. He as well, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said if there was a symbol that could best represent his work, it would be the trumpet, and it would represent resurrection. So the trumpet represents, while we may be overstimulated, while we may be distracted, while we may be, unfocused, that for us to remember who we are, whose we are, to make sure that we get right back to the purpose of what we should be doing as a people and as a world. Because it's not just, it may start with black people, but, or it may start with, our community, but this affects everybody. So, to play on that, man, I definitely wanted to contribute and make sure that the production was meaningful. And then, man, Golden Child, you know what I'm saying, came through with his Avengers, you know what I'm saying, with the piano and the, you know what I'm saying, the bass, the guitar, all the different instruments, and his genius as an engineer and putting different things together. Of course, all of the MCs with the bars. If you listen to the MCs, if you listen to Ras Kass's, the timbre of his voice and the tone of his voice, the tone of Kai's voice, the tone of Holy Thief's voice, the tone of my voice, the tone of Golden Child, and the tone of Robin leading it off, everybody's like an instrument. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So the reason why I approached it that way was, being at the Otis Redding Center for the Arts, we always do different songwriting things, and we're super big on collaboration. And that's, how I was trained, how I was raised, and definitely wanted to bring the collaboration because that's what's going to be the movement. It's not going to be one person. It's not going to be one idea. It's going to be a collaboration of all of us.
Yeah, and that is part of the progress. And speaking of that, the Still Blessed song, I think, was very important for me to hear on there. And Raz, I wanted you to break it down because in the song, it's talking a lot about the struggle, of course, and these terrible things, but that in the midst of all this, that we're still blessed. So why was that an important message and one that you guys decided to articulate in that regard?
Uh, Technically, that song is Holy Thieves record, so I had to follow suit, which is great. You know, it was his vision, and sometimes people ask you to to add on, and try to complement it. So I felt honored because I really thought that the beat was dope. I liked his hook. I liked what he was talking about, and I think ultimately I have a saying. gratitude without an attitude. So it's that anyway. So I was like, like, yeah, because, you say, like, I appreciate you, like, so even though sometimes things aren't as the way we want them, and sometimes, like, I could complain, but what does that really do? It's that thing, like, just saying, you know what, I'm still blessed that, if you can wake up and you're on this side of the dirt, you still got a fighting shot. So I think that's really what he was getting at. And that's kind of what I tried to, you know, to compliment his direction on.
Yeah. And definitely want to give a shout out to Arm Real and Holy Thief. They,
Yeah, yeah, Arm Real too. I'm sorry, I'm remiss because he did a lot of the production too. So what I'm saying, like Arm Real definitely kept the beats rocking.
yes, he did.